Alright, what's going on everybody, it's Liam here, and welcome to today's video on the channel. And today's video, I have a deck building video for y'all. I'm basically going to be showing off all of my deck setups I'm running on my characters right now. And I'll be briefly explaining why I make my decks the way I do. Now, I do have other deck building guides from the past here on my channel, so I'd highly suggest checking those out if you guys would like to have a bit more in-depth thorough of a guide on how to make a deck, or cycle a deck even. If y'all do want an updated video, I probably could do that for you guys. Just let me know in the comments below. But today's video is going to be focused on the decks that I am running, the type of deck, and obviously the cards and my side and how I play with them. Now, before I even get into anything, I just want to say, at the end of the day, decks are very subjective, right? If you take somebody's deck who's like a Marshal or a Warlord, and you try to replicate that, it might not match your playstyle because everybody cycles and thinks differently, and obviously, Wiz is a very adaptive game. You have to adjust on the fly, So, I would suggest, copying either my deck or other creators' decks, and then trying it out and tweaking it to your liking. If you're not pulling something or you're pulling too many of one thing, take it out, add something else, stuff like that. That's what I would recommend before we even get into the video. So I'm going to start on my highest ranked characters and work my way down from there. Now on the Storm, I am still running the Fractal Aeon deck as of right now. Again, the stats are just really cracked for a Storm Wizard. The crit, the block, and the health is extremely helpful. At least until the meta slows down, this is going to be your go-to deck you want at the moment. The reason you want this over anything else is simply just because the stats, right? So for example, if you run the Void deck, it's really good for the fuel, right? But you're giving up block, you're giving up 70 crit, which is 2 to 3% of damage, and I mean, I guess you do get Peacer, but it doesn't really matter on a Storm, and the Triangle Socket doesn't matter that much either. I'd rather take the health in a one-shot meta and the better stats at the end of the day personally, and I got up to 1980 with this deck at least. Alright, so this is my Storm main deck right now. I am running main deck stun blocks. Now, you could run side deck blocks, but personally, I don't really like that. I prefer having it in main deck. At least with how I cycle, I'm very good at cycling my main deck pretty efficiently. Then I have a lot of set shields. Now, Storm needs a lot of sets because your health and resist is so bad. And also Tower is not reliable with all the Steel Words and Pierces in the meta right now. So sets will actually do the job, and they can save you a lot on a Storm. So I would highly suggest packing them if you can. Most importantly, I'd probably say you're going to want Thermix and Ether Shields. I typically don't really need Glacial Shields on my Storm to win. I actually was not running these when I got almost a Warlord on this character in the last meta. I was just running Thermix and Ether Shields last meta, but these three are the three set shields you will want. Jin's Defense is the only good shield breaker right now because unfortunately King's Isle reverted the Betrayal update, so now we're back in a shield gambit meta, and the new shield counters just don't work. They're too pip expensive for tri-shields being 0 pips, so I would not recommend Minotaur. You could pack in like 2 if you want, but you're probably gonna deck fail more, so I'd recommend having a couple of Jin's Defenses. Then I run obviously Galvanic. Only 2 Catalans. That's a bit controversial, but this works for me. I typically don't rely on Catalan. I'll probably use it late game if I need to, combo and use tempo. But aside from that, I'm typically just one-shotting with Ursulka or Catch or, King Art or Ursulka, right? Catalan is just very situational. 2 Enfeebles for Blade Stalkers. Obviously Bubble. Sultan for really nice combos and balance. King Art is a really good card as well. Leviathan, really powerful card. I mean, I guess the damage per pip is kind of bad, but the hit and take a blade or 2 off is really good. And a lot of people don't expect Storm to pack this now. and it's really good, especially in the faster matchups. Catch of the day, obviously, Storm's best card, pretty much. And I am actually running Stormwing. Now, the reason I run Stormwing is for 1, Myth. 2, you can actually reset your Galvanic. So, if you Stormwing on the last round of your Galvanic, you get a buffed hit, and then you get another 4 rounds. So it's like an 8-round aura, almost. And every school can't do anything about this unless they're balanced, right? So if you can't catch, you Stormwing, basically, and that works pretty good for me. Attrition, obviously, you need that for Ice and Death, your hard counter matchups, and obviously Fire as well. For Solka, again, S tier card. Golem for Ice and Fire. 4 Hidden Bubbles, I find works for me pretty well with this deck setup. I only have a couple of Thermics. This is mostly only for balance, I would say, to prevent Hydra and Scales, right? But you don't need very much of those because you have, again, 3 Thermic Golems and 2 of these to combo 5 of them, so you pull it pretty easily. 2 Tritons, you can discard 1 if you get it too early, and then obviously Scales, Shrike, and the usual item cards down there. Now, my side deck is obviously, to be expected, a lot of debuffs. You want a lot of 0-pip moves in your side deck to reliably pull a good move that can also gain you pips. So like Empower, Weakness, Pierce, you know, Steel Ward, Tower, yada yada. I have weakness counters inside. Earthquake for obviously the shield gambits that are cheesy. Stun combo. And I actually pack Banshee. This card is really good because you can actually break off a tower or a weakness and then basically have 3 turns of tempo. You can break off a debuff, keep your buff, break a shield, and take off their blade and put a weakness on them. So packing this has won me a lot of mirror matchups personally, and I don't see a lot of people doing it. I'd highly recommend doing this over Putrefaction. It's just a very, very good card. Then obviously I have Clankers, which are really good, and Beetle inside deck with 1 Reshuffle just for Jades because they're running rampant in queue right now. Next up on the fire, I am running the Void's Fiery cards. Now, I'd actually recommend the 150 version of this, but I'm an idiot and I actually upgraded it and I lost the fuel item card, which you would want for trap stacking. And that's kind of what you have to do on a fire right now. You want a single trap, fuel, cover that with a TC fuel, and then just go for a, you know, like a really big hit into a Jhin, and there's just nothing your opponent can do. You just overwhelm them with buffs and damage, and that's really all you do. But you obviously want to pull your fire trap right away, following with your sunblock and your fuels. You get that stuff set up. Reversal is really good against other trap stackers as well. Couple of golems, mostly just for Storm because they can Catalan and Golem you, so you need something to respond to that. Then I have Betrayal and Delusion in still because the Myth synergy with Fire is pretty solid. You could take out probably 2 of these and add like 2 Jin's defenses in, but personally I've been doing just fine with Betrayal, and everything else is kind of self-explanatory. I mean, you know, Dark Pact Pet goes pretty good with this. That's my side deck again. Don't have much towers because I'm gonna be, you know, stun block, blade, fire trap, fuel, aura, right? Just kill them, one shot them, you know, smore into a Jhin for 20k, you know. You don't really have to play defensive on a fire with this strat, and it's really good. I think we have 1 Fire Warlord who did this strat, so that is the deck setup I run, and it works pretty good. I've beaten Lifes who are supposed to counter trap stack, so it's a solid deck setup. Alright, so this is my 2nd highest ranked. Now, this is the balance, as you guys know. I got to like 1950 this season, actually, which is pretty darn cool. But this is the main deck I am running right now. Works pretty good. If I had to say one thing I don't like about it is I don't really have heal counters like Contagion. I just don't have it because I can't buy back training points. And then obviously I don't have any sets to like Ice or Storm, which would be really helpful. I'd probably recommend packing 2 Ethers and 2 Glacial Shields right here if you can on a balance. I just don't have them at the moment. So I would definitely do that. I would do 2 and 2 at the top here. Then everything else is pretty self-explanatory, right? You want to always have an aura on a balance, have counters, gaze, mock, scales, other scales with a locust swarm to counter trap stack and kill them on time. Then obviously burn and samurai are good, very good late game, and judgment, strike judgment is very good against Jades as well. Then the side deck I am running right now is like this. Again, I do not have Contagion, so I'm running 2 Infects inside to make up for that. When I do run Contagion, I'll probably swap the deck around a little bit more. But I'm running 2 Infects just to deal with the Jades and a reshuffle at the moment. I have beaten 2 Jades so far when I just started packing Infects, so that is pretty darn cool. Again, you're going to want a stun combo on every school. Elemental Dispel. Sabertooth is way above damage per pip. Very broken card. Would highly suggest getting it if you can. And then I have a couple of these just because they're pretty solid in general. And yeah, that is the balanced deck setup. Alright, my next highest character is my Death right now. I've been having a lot of fun on this character recently, and this is what I've been rocking so far. So obviously a lot of sets. Obviously I am a Shield Gambit school, so a lot of these are extremely helpful for both scales, obviously against Storm and, you know, life as well. So I'm packing 2 Dooms and 2 Contagions to deal with the Jades that are all over Q at the moment. I have a total of 6 Blades, 4 here and 2 here. And then I have Ghoul in main deck. I would recommend main deck Ghoul over side deck Ghoul because the Blades are like 10% stronger when you max tier it. So I'd recommend packing about 3 Ghouls if you can. I do pack 1 Kizuma for balance and myths. It is a pretty good card. And then 2 Set for myth, which is pretty good against death. I've actually beaten most myths on my death when I'm not warded, as you guys know. But I just pack Scarecrow and a couple of Golems, and myth just falls apart, you know? All you have to do is pack these and scales at a good time, and you can beat a death, or sorry, beat a myth easily on a death right now. I've beaten like Warlord myths who are warded to death when I'm not warded with this deck setup, so it just absolutely claps myth. Then my side deck, this is probably one of my better side decks, I'd say. It's very, very organized, very, very neat. 4 poisons, obviously a stun, you know, shield gambits, 4 drains to pull for. Wraith is very good, would highly suggest packing that. It's very good against scales as well. If you can even take a bladed Wraith when they take a scales, that puts you in the game, and they have to scales an extra time to make up for that damage you heal off with the Wraith. So this is really good with scales being the way it is, and with how much of a meta school balance is at the moment. And then I run the Aeon deck for this as well because the item card Banshee is extremely good. Stats are really good, and I don't need Pip Conserve on a Death Wizard, not really. And I still have 60%, so it's pretty freaking solid. Now the next 2 schools I'm going to show off are my 2 lowest ranked schools, which is going to be the Life and the Ice. Now these guys are kind of only low rank because I don't play on them much, as you guys can tell compared to my other characters. I've only done 15 games on this character. I'm 12-3 so far, almost got captain back on this school, so keep in mind it is a lower ranked character, just simply because I don't play it a lot. But this is what I run right now. Colossus is still pretty decent, and a lot of the stuff I have in main deck is pretty much just to counter my opponents or set up again like a Colossus or a Scion. I have Ice Wyvern, very good card, Winter Moon, a lot of sets, and I pack Jin's Reversal actually as well. This card is pretty darn good against trap stackers because you can take off their traps and then get a 40 buff for your frostbite, which is absolutely insane. When you combine bubble, a blade, and a 40 buff, your frostbite is doing like 900 or 1000 a tick with this. So they kind of just crumple at your feet with it. So it is very, very good. And then again, the rest of the stuff is kind of self-explanatory. Just counters, hits, and stuff to set up. Side deck, you know, frostbite, blades, Sleet Storm offense, Frostfang, another card really above damage per pip, very good card, reshuffle and a heal counter, Tri Shields, obviously for the Ice Scion Shield Gambit, then your usual 6 weaknesses in the side deck. So yeah, pretty solid deck setup on my Ice, works honestly more often than not, even though I don't play much on him. And yeah, that is what I run. And I am running the Void cards for 160, in case y'all are wondering. You could run the, what is it called? The Eternal one for an extra flat resist socket, but I like having this setup because I get 245 blades, which are really good. So I have a total of 2 blades in main, 4 inside, and 45 blades on an Ice are just so potent. Again, combine a 45 blade with a 35 bubble and a 40 trap on a frostbite, you'll just destroy trap stackers. You'll frostbite a bomb and they'll die. It's crazy. Next up, the Life Wizard. Now, I've been doing really good on this character, actually. I've beaten a lot of high rank people. I've only lost to like literal bots. I'm not sure why that is. I guess I need to, maybe I need to make my deck a bit better, but I feel like it does work pretty good. So I don't know why I'm losing to literal bots, but beating all the high rank people. Don't know why that is. Anyways, so this is what I run on my Life right now. Again, as you'll see, it's just a lot of hit and heals, a lot of utility, a lot of counters as well. I do have a Golem in just for death because Grim Reader is really good, and Myth is also really good, so as pack 1 if I need it. Couple of hidden bubbles, not too much though. Then I have Wings of Fate for an overtime and Hunting Worm to make up for the fact that Jin's Defense is meta right now. And then again, as you see here, just a lot of counters, being sure I'm covering all the bases, and then hitting and healing a lot, and obviously countering. So that is the main deck. Then this is the side deck I'm running right now. Again, a lot of towers and steel wards. I have blades inside. Life Banshee is really good. This is a card Kingsaw has not actually banned. They did ban like Red Ghost from death and stuff like that. But this card with the fuel pet goes absolutely insane. You can really rack up tempo with this. Very underrated card. So definitely get your hands on these if you can. Then obviously, Spiny, again, really good offensive pressure. Same with Woodwalker. We have Fire Elf inside to set up the Jin and the Star Spawn as well. Earthquake for shield gambits, Pierce for spirit shield and tower shield. Couple of empowers, reshuffle, and the standard 6 weaknesses. On the Life, I am running the Eternal deck for the extra flat resist socket. I was running the Aeon deck for a while. I did really good with it actually, but I found that I would probably get more success running an extra flat resist socket because I don't find myself getting one-shotted like I do on the Storm, for example. So, you know, I figured I'd get hit multiple times, and at that point, I'll probably want the extra flat resist over the extra health because I'm not going to get one-shotted, unlike, you know, Fire or Storm, for example. So this is the Myth deck that I run pretty often. It has a good diversity in terms of, you know, stacking a little bit, but not too much. So you obviously have shields for your Gambit. You have reversal for, you know, cards like your Scion or your Saga or your King Artorias. You do not have to run this one. I would recommend having this more on an Ice than a Myth. If you want to have a different trap counter, I'd recommend with just going and writing the skills. But again, I don't have that trained because training point buyback. But this one is not bad. I'd probably lean a bit towards writing the skills from the balance school if you can. Athena is a really solid card and very underrated card. This does a lot of damage, and you obviously get that 35% shield. Now, you don't have to rely on this a lot, but end game, and if you fall behind, it can really put you back in the game. And on a school like Myth with all your damage and Pierce, it is very powerful. Then obviously, you want Mystic, very situational. Colossus, really good. Obviously, the Broken Shield Gambit. King Art, a lot of people do not expect this on a myth nowadays. It's very good, especially since attrition is so popular. You can do this, and if they don't counter it, they die. And if they do, you have a really nice Stone Colossus, right? So it's not bad. Then obviously, a couple of Myth Blades, Betrayal, a couple of Hidden Bubbles, one Shatter, obviously for other Shield Gambit players, and if you fall behind in tempo, couple of Snakes, really good damage for Pip, one Golem, again, kind of what I have for all the Spirit Schools, just to have it there for your counter matchups, 4 Yagas, 4 Braces, because I find myself playing slow, setting up the Gambits, and playing very methodical on the Myth, and then obviously counters and Strike for Jades. Side deck is a little bit different compared to my other schools. I don't really run Steel Ward that much on this character, and I was doing a Blade Stack strat, so forgive me. But obviously you want your 4 and 4 shields as usual. That's what you want to have roughly on all of these Shield Gambit schools. TC Betrayal is extremely powerful still. Would highly suggest getting that if you can get access to that via guilds here. So if you have Azoth like I do, you can just go to the island over here and craft a couple of Delusion and Betrayal. That will help you out quite a bit. So yeah, that is the side deck for the Myth Wizard, and that's gonna be everything for the video. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, be sure to leave a like rating and subscribe. Soul Sword is here. Say hi, Soul Sword, at the end of the video.
I'm not saying hi, bro.
Yeah, what a guy, what a guy. Okay, alright, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you for the love, and take care, guys.